Well, welcome to our live stream. Today, we're going to be announcing our winners for the September Art Dare, and we're also going to be announcing what the November Art Dare is. And if you would like to learn how to turn your artistic weakness into your strength, check out artprof.org, where we have lots of free resources. We have tutorials, critiques, pro development, and all that cool stuff. So, Clara, why don't you get us started for today?
Yes, the September Art Dare was to transform a celebrity into a monster. Let's take a look at the first artist, who I believe is here in the chat, Lady Kimono, who explains, I wanted to draw a musician whose music touched my soul. I used the Caran d'Ache luminance colored pencils, tried to not only alter his features to indicate the monster, but also using color and mood. Well, speaking of color, Jordan, what do you think? Because these are not realistic colors.
I always like doing colors that are a little out there, pushing the envelope a bit. And so I think it's a lot of fun. You have these, I guess it's a broad analogous color scheme. You have the purples, reds, oranges, yellows. I love that kind of stuff, and it makes the heat of the character or the lighting feel so much more intense to me.
We do indeed have Lady Kimono here live in the chat. And actually, could you tell us who the celebrity is? Chances are I don't know them anyway because I'm old and can't keep up with these things.
I'm
But
young, I can.
Jordan, one of the things I really like about this piece is that there are sections that are very crisp and graphic. If you look at the contour that's to the left of the mouth, that's a very bold graphic shape with a very hard edge. But isn't it beautiful how the hair that's to the right of the right horn, it almost dissolves into that
Yeah.
background?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the piece too, and I think it just helps you really focus on the facial features. Like the hair especially is just so wispy, and it feels like you could blink and you miss it type of thing. But there's so much focus on all the details, including even like the nose and like the philtrum, for example. I just love how well executed this is.
And the nose has this beautiful sheen to it that is so well articulated. I like how the ear is actually extremely detailed compared to, say, the hair, which is almost barely there. So, Lady Kimono, one of the things I really like about this is that you've been extremely selective about what to emphasize, what to give detail. So, in a lot of sense, you are in essence a editor. You're picking what you want to emphasize instead of just drawing everything to the default level of finish. And Lady Kimono says Tamino Amir, a Belgian Egyptian musician. Yeah, I definitely haven't heard of them, but that's great. I'm so happy to see that because, Jordan, one of the things I like about the art dares is we get to learn about all these different subjects from all over the world.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest blessings of being a part of the art prop community because it's a worldwide community, and there's so many things that we get exposed to that otherwise we would never have heard of before.
And how cool how Soyton Lee and Lisa and several of you watched Lady Kimono develop this piece. And that's one of the funnest things about the Discord. And we also have Sentient Charcoal, who says, kind of looks like they're in the rain and mist. Pat says, love your edge lines where you've dropped them. And Jane says, love the coloring style, abstract feeling. Great. All right. Let's take, actually, we're going to look at Jane's piece next. So Jane says that we did a celebrity monster stream. It was me and Deep D. You can see it on the left-hand side. Deep D made this face on the stream, invited us to draw her as a monster. I was excited as I could use the photo as a reference. And so Jane explains my theme was Monster School yearbook photos. I imagine each one playing a role at the monster school, from students to a teacher and a principal. Well, we've got Kristen Stewart. We've got George Takai as the monster school principal. And I actually don't know who this is. Jordan, who is this? Do you know?
I do not know. I do not know.
Okay, well,
He's got very
Jane, you have to
interesting
tell us.
faces.
Yeah. So, Jane, tell us in the chat who that is. But, Jordan, I just love how bold these are.
Yeah, they're bold, and just the concept itself of having a yearbook photo section of all these characters and imagining them in the same storyline is really fun. It's like you create your own version of Monsters Inc. with celebrities, basically, and it's great. I like the Medusa snakes. I like the pointed nose on DT, which reminds me of an episode of The Twilight Zone. It's great. It's I love it.
Yeah, this is like that beauty is in the eye of the
Yeah,
beholder
they
episode.
got everything all twisted up.
Yeah, yeah. I just the way the nose is angled, I think is brilliant. And Jane, what lovely Janet rather, what nice texture on the hair. And oh man, I love the variations of green in the snake. And isn't the face beautifully rendered here?
Yeah, it looks really, really solid, and you can see the forms very well, especially as we curve the face and the nose, and even the little bit of form shift underneath the mouth and the chin. It's looking really solid.
And then, Janet, I really love how you transform the jewelry because in the Kristen Stewart photo, you can't see it. And then you added that little form, and you even worked on the ring she's wearing and also the wristband. Brilliantly done. And this one is so dramatic. I mean, it really looks like one of those ancient Japanese masks of demons. But that's fun too, that this is an even more dramatic transformation.
Mhm. I think that's some of the fun of doing this yearbook concept because and doing monsters because you can really push up a lot of these characteristics and sometimes explaining this with words would be very hard for someone, but now that we see the images side by side, it's making a lot more sense to I'm imagining not just Clara and I, but to everyone watching the stream, like, oh, I see it. So that makes it a lot of fun.
Oh, so Jane says George Takai as a Japanese Oni demon, brilliant. And the next person says Josh Gad, an actor most famous for the voice of Olaf in Frozen. Well, what do you think of this depiction?
I think it's awesome. Oh, I love the warped head altogether, and I just have questions like that. Even the hair is slightly different. That makes it fun. The green things on his face. I guess those are scales or something. Like there's a lot that's happening with this, and it's great. I like it a lot.
Janet, did you Photoshop the green portrait at the top as a reference for your final piece? It looks like it, but I think that's brilliant because it still really it looks like him, but oh man, look at those eyes. Like one is tilted up, it's blue, the other one's green, it's very smushed. And I'm curious, Janet, if you've done caricature work before because you're very good at it. Oh, Janet says, using my daughter's slime app. Oh, goodness. I have no idea what that is. But apparently, there's an app now for everything. Ginger says, reminding me of that Hotel Transylvania movie. And we also have Amanda who says, reminds me of an Addams Family. And this is just fantastic. I think these are absolutely hilarious. Oh my gosh, Jordan, Janet says, first time doing
Oh,
caricatures.
oh snap! That's so awesome. Well, I think you did a really excellent job exaggerating all this stuff, and I think what's really great is that you took this to the extreme. You warped his whole head. Most people will just start with a facial feature, but you're like, nope, we're doing the entire head. He's looking like a pear now, and
Yeah.
I see. I think you had a lot of fun with this.
And Janet, I would love to see more caricatures from you because you're so good at it. And really, for a lot of people, the art dares are an opportunity for them to try something else. And then they realize, hey, I'm really good at this. I should probably do more. So that's wonderful to see. All right. We have the next artist who is Elena Jimenez. And she says, someone mentioned a three-headed monster. I immediately thought of Joan Crawford and Betty Davies in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And Elena says, I was going to do a graphite drawing, but it kept evolving. Was worried the paper wouldn't take the paint since it's so lightweight, but it worked out in the end. I had so much fun. Isn't that cool, Jordan, how we can be surprised by our process, that we can plan on doing a graphite drawing, but all of a sudden it ends up being a painting?
Yeah, I think that's one of the joys of art in general because while we have principles like perspective and anatomy and color theory and all those things, part of I think the joy of art is experimenting and exploring. And I think that this is one of those key moments where you're just like it starts off as one thing and turns into something completely different, and there's nothing that says you cannot do that. So I think it's excellent that you found that type of freedom.
And I love the necks. They're so cool the way that they've been rendered, and one of my favorite things is that the figure on the left, the neck is very straight. I mean, it's at a diagonal, which I think makes it very dynamic, but it looks like a stiff neck, okay? But then the neck of the person on the right, I mean, it looks like a snake, some sort of big gigantic snake that weighs 500 pounds. And then we come to the faces, and they have such a sculptural feeling, even though they are fairly graphic.
Yeah, I think that even just the way their faces are designed for the neck that they're on, they fit very well. They complement each other. Like I see the one on the left as kind of the more straight and narrow, kind of friendly one, and the other one as someone's like, okay, some something is awry, something is off here, mischievous. I don't know who these celebrities are in real life. I don't know anything about them, but I get that sense of a character shift or that dynamic between them, which I think is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I think it's a film, Elena. Maybe you can explain in the chat. But one of the things I love about the clothing is that doesn't it look like the heads are too big for the clothing and they're sort of pushing out because the clothing is very awkward. I mean, that's exactly what I like about it. It's sort of slanted and it doesn't look quite right. But I think given that this is a monster prompt, this is very appropriate.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the clothes are suited specifically because to them because they tried to make it that way. Like I don't know if it was sewn that way. It's like we're gonna make this work. We got two heads, and we both need this neck hole. So
Ooh, Elena is here live with us in the chat. Carolyn says implication that the body is big based on the shoulder size with the two heads is just freaky. And Elena says, ready to choke her sister in the movie. They were very antagonistic. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad I know that now because that brings another depth of meaning to this. And Amanda says, I would not like to run into these ladies in a dark hallway. This is fantastic. I just and then Jordan, what about the text?
sister, I think. I mean, I is that the name of the movie?
Well, they're sisters.
Okay, okay. Well, I was wondering if that was like the actual title, but no,
Oh,
I
no,
think
no.
okay. Well, I think that's a lot of fun. I think it just kind of I think it kind of shows like the the importance of the relationship, but also again with the facial features, how contrasting they are because they're it's not just they're two bodies, they're one body with two heads, and what is the dynamic there? It's something we don't often see. So it's very intriguing, and it's kind of like that blanket statement really kind of pulls everything together.
I also like that the text, it's a little wonky, but that's exactly the right fit for this particular image. And so I'm glad, Elena, that you didn't try to do something that felt more structured or more precise in terms of getting a font. And Elena also explains the movie is very camp. Well, that's a great selection for this particular prompt. Okay, the next artist, who, by the way, Kristie Maloy, is live here with us in the chat, says, I thought I would take the sweetest image of a celebrity and turn them into a monster. Snow White was my first thought. And then we also have, I believe, Mary Poppins in here. And I don't know this person's name, but I know he's in the Austin Powers movies. And then Betty White. What do you think, Jordan?
I think the specific desire to choose these celebrities is hilarious because generally they're seen as very harmless, very loving. In the case of Snow White, right? She's the one that everyone imagines is the friendliest person ever, and then we just turn her into this like demon, almost this monster. I think it's a great contrast, and it's a way to kind of flip these characters on their head that we're not really prepared for.
Also, Jordan, notice that all these celebrities are holding a bird because Kristie says first looked up Snow White and then Mary Poppins. Both images came up with them holding a bird. So Kristie said, I thought I would just do celebrities with their birds. And how funny. Like, who comes up with this? But it's only through the research that stuff like this happens. You stumble upon it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I would never have thought about that, and now I see why they're flipping the bird. It makes sense now. It's just like, that's just a really clever way to kind of spin that, and you know, and for it to be part of the same series, the kind of scary monster, and then you got just birds throughout. And I think typically we're used to birds being this sort of peaceful representation of freedom and
Yeah.
love and all this stuff, and they're like, nope, just it's great. It's great.
I just love the Snow White. I mean, look at her mouth. It's like,
It looks
it's
wants to
total.
eat it.
I know. And then you look at the original lips, which are all pretty and red. And it's just so funny, Kristie, the way you push these to such an extreme because, oh dear, this is a really frightening depiction of Mary Poppins. And I think really what you're doing is you're messing with our expectations. If I were to tell somebody, oh, I'm going to draw Mary Poppins, we think about birds and all these cute songs and everything. And then for you to give Mary Poppins this really dramatic note, I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah. She's like the Wicked Witch of the West here, almost.
And we also have people in here like Maitre Yi. This does look like a horror comedy movie poster. And we also have, let's see, Ginger says that's so clever. Amanda says very aggressive. Looks like she's going to eat that little birdie. And good point from Lady Kimono, who says birds evolved from dinosaurs. They can be scary. The Betty White one, oh my gosh, this is just terrifying. Like the skeleton, and oh my god, I'm dying.
I didn't realize that was Betty White. I'm so used to her being just.
Oh wait, is this Dolly Parton? Maybe
Is
it's
it?
Dolly
I don't
Parton.
know. I don't know.
Oh, this is Betty White.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
was okay. I recognize that style Betty White where she's
Sorry.
she's
This is
that
Dolly
same
Parton.
That's
This
Dolly
is
Parton?
Betty White. Got it.
I didn't know that was Dolly Parton. Okay, yeah, I've seen Dolly Parton past that time too. So yeah, no, this is a lot of fun. I like this. And Betty White, may she rest in peace, is one of those people that's just you just can't say anything wrong about. That's the other fun part.
Kristie, similar thing that we said to Janet, which is I don't know if you've done caricatures before, but you're very good at it. And this could actually be the beginning of a series for you to think about. So consider that because you're very good at it. Okay, next artist we're going to look at is, I don't know how to pronounce your name, sorry, This P, who explains after 20 years of not making anything, not since high school art class. So, wow, you really picked this up, which is fantastic. They say, I drew Orc Henry Cavill in my sketchbook with colored pencil, fine liner to give him a cartoony look. And they also explain, as a psychologist, monsters to me represent the part of our personality that we repress out of fear and insecurity. Those feelings can later resurface as an aggressive monster. To me, orcs from Lord of the Rings represent brutish masculinity. Well, this is so cool because obviously we're seeing your side as an artist, but Jordan, isn't it fascinating to hear about their point of view as a psychologist?
Yeah, when I talk to my students, I often talk about the bridge between psychology and art. I think they're very interrelated because the whole purpose is to create an image usually without words, typically without words, that incites an emotional reaction. And to be able to capture that is something that is not easy, using the right colors, lines, and all that stuff. So I think this is done really, really well, and I think it's great that you were able to combine those two.
And we do have this, maybe you can tell me how to say her name correctly, here live in the chat with us. I love it when those of you who did the Art Dare can join us because it's great to see all of your comments and thoughts behind the work. One of my favorite parts of this piece is actually the facial hair, because we can definitely tell he's got green skin. But then, do you see on the chin how you can see the green underneath the facial feature? I think is a beautiful area of layering.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a great detail because I think that's something a lot of people would miss, and they would forget that the skin is green or that there's something underneath all that hair. And you did not, so that's excellent. I love that you. I love that you're thinking ahead like that.
And then those creepy cheekbones. So you've got the cheekbones up here, but then you can see the flesh. It's just like sagging downwards. I just love that emphasis. And then even the folds in between the eyes, some of the wrinkles on the forehead. It makes for a very expressive portrait because we can really feel the stretching of the skin over the structure. And Lady Kimono says this very much reads as Henry Cavill. He looks especially clean and nice so often, but when he plays on his monster side, that is when he shines. And Sentient says still has that Henry Cavill intensity in the stare. You know, Jordan, people are always suggesting Henry Cavill. They're like, well, you really like Hugh Jackman and you really like Benedict Cumberbatch. I think you would like Henry Cavill. And he doesn't do it for me. I mean, he's fine. But
I don't know if am I supposed to respond to that somehow. I don't.
no.
No,
And
every time I see Hugh Jackman on Instagram now, I think of you automatically. Like I have to send you stuff. So you made an impact on me, Clara. You made an
Hugh
impact.
Jackman has a new movie coming out. It's called The Sun. Oh my God, it comes out November 17th. I can't wait to see it. There's
I'm
a
happy.
beach scene, even though it's a drama. He gets to go swimming with his son. I'm so excited.
Happy for you. I'm happy that your desires are fulfilled.
So 81 Tizzle, who's the artist, it's typically Dutch. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm so glad that you can join us. All right. See, Lady Kimono is trying to convince me. Have you seen him in The Witcher? I didn't need to see him. I saw a poster and was like, ugh, I don't like this long hair thing. Okay, I am the last monster for this art dare. This is by Soytonly, who I believe is here in the chat, and said, I did this art dare to have some fun, revisit Procreate, which I hadn't used in a while. Prof Lieu makes for a pretty cute orc. Not so scary, a monster after all. So we have two orcs towards the end of this stream. What do you think?
Oh my gosh. I I think this might be how a lot of students saw you back in the day.
This is my real form.
Yeah, this was your first form when we were students, and we were all terrified of you.
They used to call me the Dragon Lady at RISD. I don't
Did
know if
they?
I like that, but yes, I had a reputation.
I don't know if I ever heard that one, but if you say it, then it must be true. That's funny though. No, this is great though. This is hilarious, and I gotta say, I like the complementary combination of the red eyes and the green skin and hair. I think that's an awesome choice.
Yeah, the red eyes are brilliant because it's like I'm staring right into your soul and putting a laser in there and destroying you from the inside. I just love that. And we do have Soyton Lee, who says, I laughed every time I worked on this. And you know something, Jordan? I think there needs to be more artwork that's fun and silly and humorous. And a lot of people don't feel like they should because they think that they're not going to be taken seriously. But I love it when artwork has that effect on me.
Oh yeah, I think people take things way too seriously, and not every art project has to be this existential like critique on human life and the way we think as a society. Sometimes it's just ooh, funny monster, like something as simple as that is plenty sometimes.
Jane says, love the background and the red eyes. Awesome contrast. And Elena confirms that I am a pretty cute orc. Although, Jordan, the joke in my family, because we always talk about, well, if you were in Lord of the Rings, what character would you be? And my family has unanimously agreed that I would be the cave troll in Lord of the Rings. So I'm not an orc to them. I'm a cave troll. So what would you
Oh,
be, Jordan? If you were in Lord of the Rings, what character would you be?
I, I've only seen Lord of the Rings once, so I don't know the lore enough to be able to say. I'm sorry.
Tell us in the chat,
Yeah, yeah.
what
Tell me. I'll look it
character would Jordan be if he was in Lord of the Rings? Because I need to know what this would be like.
and then I'll have to Google it because I don't
Yeah.
know what they are.
We've got some prizes to give out. We are giving the honorable mention to Lady Kimono. We are so excited to see your work. And the prize winner is Janet. Yes, we were so thrilled to see all the pieces that you created. So, everybody, wonderful work on the Art Dare this month and for supporting each other. I think that is one of the most important things in this community. Let's talk about the November Art Dare. And this we are calling the Artist Muse. We want you to create an artwork of Ken, who is a longtime RISD artist model. I worked with Ken for years in the classrooms at RISD, and he's absolutely, oh, I love Ken so much. He's so phenomenal. He does amazing poses, as you can see here. Because Jordan, I know a lot of people say, oh, well, to learn the figure, you have to objectify it, think about it as abstract forms. But isn't it brilliant to see how every artist model you work with at RISD has a different personality? I mean, they're people.
You know what's fun? I never really thought about the figures abstract forms. I always just tried to look at them and like what they were doing and really dive into the story that they were telling through a pose. So yeah, even just from these photos I'm seeing here, I can tell how dynamic he's able to make his torso. Like that looks like something fun I would want to draw. So yeah, I think you guys are gonna have fun with this one.
And I do have a short I've been meaning to cut where I interview a bunch of my favorite RISD artist models. Not only of them could make it, but a bunch of them could. And Ken is just the nicest person. And it is funny because a lot of these he looks a little scary. Like, do you see Jordan this one? I mean, he has a super intense face, but he's the sweetest person. And he and I have such a natural dynamic. So when he came into my class to model, I would say the simplest thing. I would say, let's do 2-minute poses. And he would just go up there and do a great job. It's like I barely had to supervise him at all because he's such a good model. He knows what I want. And that's priceless to find a model who you can really work with.
Oh yeah, it's super important to find a good model. Like, quick story. I remember one time we had a figure drawing session. It was very early in the semester, and a woman who had never posed before, and not in front of a room that had like 70 people. And so she just put her hand on her hip and on her head, and she just rotated for like 30 minutes doing that exact same pose. And she was so nervous. I felt really bad for her. But when a model can just let loose and just have fun and do different things, be creative, oh, the artists appreciate it. We really appreciate it. So kudos to all you models out there watching this video.
It takes experience to be a good model, and people don't realize it because they just think, oh, okay, you're a nude model, you go up, you do some poses, but it's not easy to do. And I will say that I do place some of that on the instructor because a good instructor should be able to direct the model and explain what it is that they're doing. I mean, Ken and I work together so much. He knows all my exercises. So when I go to him, I say, oh, we're going to do that moving figure exercise. He's like, yep, going to get up there and do it. So I've always been so appreciative to work with somebody who just knows my teaching style so well. Now, the artist muse, this has been happening throughout all of history. And some of the examples we're going to give are Lucian Freud and Kitty Garman. And Jordan, it is so interesting to see the same person depicted by an artist multiple times. What do you think is fascinating about that? So here we have Kitty Garman here, and here's another version.
I think it's just fun to see how the artist interprets the same thing through the course of months or years, because they tend to be very different. You might be in different phases of your life where you want to indicate, you want to represent the figure realistically, and then at some point you might get bored and say, I want to do this type of style, and you get to really see not only the artist's journey but the model's journey, because there might be changes to that person as well, maybe with hair or the way they dress or the way they're posing or weight or whatever the situation is.
And since I didn't take the time to do my homework, you should all look up these artists and their relationships. In the situation of Rembrandt, his wife was Saskia. And what I think is really funny about these portraits, because the Kitty Garment images, these look like a person. Now, in Saskia's case, she gets turned into, oh, this month she's an allegory of spring. Next month, she is Ophelia, and now she's I just think this is so funny because here Rembrandt's using her more as a reference, whereas I feel like some of the other images we're going to look at, like this George Dyer and Francis Bacon, these feel more like Francis Bacon is depicting George Dyer from his point of view. So the point here is that there are a lot of ways to use a reference photo. This is not about, oh, I'm copying it. What's the difference, Jordan, between copying a reference photo and using it as raw materials?
I think with if you use it as a raw material, you're allowing yourself to have a lot more freedom, and you're able to really explore, and you're making up your own decisions as you go. Whereas if you just kind of copy, it's sort of a one-to-one ratio thing. You're limiting yourself a lot, and it oftentimes might not feel like you as the artist is represented in the work you create.
Think about these reference photos of Ken. It's raw material. These are the eggs that you put in to the flour to bake a cake. I think the most exciting part of these photos is how do we each transform them? And so I think it would be really fun for all of you to push that. For sure, all of you can do gesture drawings of Ken. That's fine. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just saying that there's more than one way to go about using a reference photo. And we get a lot of questions about people who say, well, I don't really know what to do with this. And oftentimes, Jordan, the obvious way is people just use the same composition. But I think playing with the composition and cropping would be really fun.
Yeah, I again, I think for this type of challenge, this type of art dare, you'll want to learn how to explore, just like everyone did with the monster drawings that we just went over. Right, this is another time to experiment and see what you can do. Change the composition, the color, the you know, what if you're going to draw the legs, for example, like what is that going to look like? Maybe what he was actually doing is going to be different than what you want to draw. So there's a lot of room for freedom in here.
I think what would be super fun, everybody, because there are so many photos of Ken, maybe you make a composition where it's 5 figures. It's 5 Kens interacting, or maybe it's a 3-headed Ken. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities to make something more surrealistic. If you want to turn him into Hamlet and have him looking at a skull, you don't have to only use the Ken photos. Because Jordan, I'm sure you've done pieces where I think you said it's called photo bashing, where you're a little here, a little there to create the composition, and it's not limited to just Ken.
Yeah. So yeah, photo bashing is that thing where you take several photos and you just mash them up into one composition. But I do that all the time. I was drawing characters the other day, and I was looking at the style of two different artists, and then a photo of one or two people, and then I would just combine it all together and make something brand new. And it takes it takes a while to get to a place where you feel comfortable doing that all the time. But again, it's about that freedom and enjoying the process of being an artist.
Pat says this could have been another 20 pieces in different styles challenge, and I just may. That's a great way to think about it. And Khalees says, I learned from another video, Prof Lieu suggested to do one composition 20 times 20 different ways. It was really helpful. Think about ways you can structure this art dare for you, because I think there's a billion possibilities, and it's really fun to take a look at that within the Discord and to bounce off each other. And you can create for the art dare leap 4 artworks or 20, as Pat's saying. And remember, hang out in the Discord. This is so fun, Jordan, for people to see what other people are doing before the Art Dare is over.
Yeah, you get like a little taste of what everyone's up to, and I think it probably will not just encourage everyone else to see uh, that you're supportive of them, but I think it'll give you inspiration to work on your own project too.
Thank you, RB Dick, for the super sticker. We so much appreciate your support as always. Now, to officially enter the Art Dare, you need to tag us on Instagram with hashtag ArtProfDare. However, if you are not on social media, if you go onto the Art Dare page, we do have a Google form, which is where you can submit your work. This Google slideshow is available. The link is in the YouTube video description below, and you can access all of our slideshows on artprof.org. Please join Jordan and I. We will be in the Discord immediately after the stream on a stage session. This is where you get to talk to us on voice. It's such a great opportunity for the community to come together and hear all the different voices. And Jordan, what's the story with the live stream tonight on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so as usual, Sunday evenings at 6, we're going to be doing some drawing on my channel. Today, I think I'm going to continue with background characters like I did last week. And some of you guys saw last week, you didn't know what channel it was. There's the title, The Joe McFo Show. So you guys can go there at 6 p.m. Pacific time, which is in about 9 hours or so. So love to see you there. Come hang out.
And if you're not subscribed, shame on you. You want to check this out because Jordan's covering a lot of content that we don't cover at Art Prof. So I think it'd be wonderful for all of you to get over there. There are many ways you can support Art Prof. For example, you can make a one-time donation via Venmo. This is new. Before this, we were only on PayPal. So those of you who are on Venmo, hopefully this makes it more convenient for you to support us. You can get our brand new Art Prof merch designed by Mia Rozier. You can purchase an artist call to get customized feedback. You can purchase a portfolio critique. And guess what? We made enough to cover my new desktop, my monitor. The raffle made $4,638. And I'm so happy I can get a new laptop. This is a big deal for us, all of you, because I don't usually budget $3,500 a month for a desktop. So this is a huge expense that we had to deal with. And Jordan, isn't this amazing to see the way our community came through for us?
Oh, yes, it is. It's so awesome. And I really, if you haven't heard before, we gotta thank you guys so much because you guys have been keeping us going for the last several years, longer than I've even been a part of Art Prof, and it's all thanks to you. So you guys spoke with the raffle, so we're gonna give you some more cool stuff to help you learn art.
We are going to be doing the raffle drawing later this week, probably tomorrow. And a whole bunch of you bought us some fun toys off of our Amazon wish list. Jordan, I think you got a Calvin and Hobbes book.
I did. It is behind me right now, so otherwise I pull it up. But yes, I got a nice Calvin Hobbes book, and I was reading it the other day, and it was awesome.
Carolyn's asking, where do we buy Art Prof merch? If you go to our front page of artprof.org and you go down to the very bottom, you will see the link for our merch store. It's actually linked to our YouTube channel, so it should show up. We should have a shelf, although maybe because I refreshed everything, it's a little bit different. Okay, so anyway, everybody, thank you. Thank you. I was so stressed about the desktop expense just because we don't typically have that. And you all know our budget is precarious as it is. Thank you to our top Patreon supporters. We would not be here without you. And look at this. We have a new Patreon supporter, Sophie. I don't know how to say her name. I'm sorry. Van Kali. Anyway, thank you for joining because this is the heart of our budget. We can't do anything. I keep trying to block them, Amanda. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, we did go up for our Patreon goal. The raffle brought in 73 more dollars. We're at 3,800 on the Patreon, which is better, but we can always go up. Art Prof has a podcast. It's available on Spotify and also on iTunes. And subscribe to our channel for more tutorials, critiques, and business tips. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.